Zimbabwe cash crisis
We're talking about Venezuela once again.
Systemic important banks. They removed the one factor you do is thing called monetary awareness.
Next recession.
Recession will be
Will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
a U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months, but a lot of things about this particular one have not been typical. So
A crash is coming now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
I go to bed every night, I dream of another recession. If you know what to do, if you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.
Hey there, welcome back to another RT News update. And as you can tell from today's title, the U.S. has lost global power and is now just faking it. And before I actually go into this article here, I want to thank one of the followers over at the RTD Rethinking the Dollar Twitter account for tagging me in this article so that I can bring it to you guys today. So as always, if you're not subscribed to the RTD channel, click the subscribe button below this video as well as the notification tab. More importantly, if you are on other social media vehicles such as Twitter, follow me there, as well as on Steemit. Make sure you guys follow me there. I post different articles that I'm not able to do via video wise. And then more importantly, for just some visual aids, I love posting things over on Instagram. So you can find all those links to those social media sites at the very bottom of this video here. So let's dive into the very first one. And so it's from the Russian Insider, and just the title alone, when I was tagged in that article, got me to thinking about, what could be inside of it and how did this guy position his article to where he's saying that the U.S. is just faking it. And so it's a very lengthy article, but well worth reading. So I encourage you to take time to read it for yourself. So I highlighted a few things here that I want to share with you that really stands out. But before we dive into all that part there, let me give you a little bit of the beginning. And it says, it's a hard job being a global hegemon and the world's sole superpower. You have to keep the entire planet in line. Every country needs to be taught its place and kept there by force if need be. Now and again, a country or two has to be conquered or destroyed just to teach others a lesson. Plus, you have to relentlessly meddle in other countries' politics, rigging elections so that the only U.S.-friendly candidates can win, run regime change operations, organize colored revolutions. Stop doing this and some countries will start ignoring you. Scroll down a little bit more. So it says, is the United States still the world's greatest power, in control of the entire planet, or has that moment in history already come and gone? It says, we are constantly hearing now that the situation is becoming dire. Relations between the U.S. and NATO countries and Russia are going from bad to worse. There is a trade war going on with China. North Korea remains an intractable problem and an embarrassment. Go down a little bit more. What really makes this article stand out is how he gets into this part right here. It says, on March 1st, 2018, President Putin unveiled Russia's new weapons system against which the United States is defenseless and will remain so for the foreseeable future. Previously, the plan was to surround Russia with military bases and missile batteries, then launch a preemptive first strike, destroying its capabilities to retaliate and forcing it to capitulate. This plan has now conclusively failed, and U.S. NATO attack on Russia is once again assured to be an act of suicide. Worse than that, even limited military confrontations are now mostly unthinkable, because Russia can now inflict unacceptable damage on U.S. NATO forces from a far distance without putting any of its own assets at risk. It says the new weapon systems have made it possible to start ignoring the U.S. It says it is still important to maintain a credible military posture, but politically the U.S. is no longer in control, and neither are the global institutions on which it has relied. Instead, what we are seeing is the reemergence of nations and even empires. It says the political structure of Syria is being decided by Russia, Turkey, and Iran with no useful input from the United States at all. Then he goes on to talk about how in that whole region there over the last several thousand years, there's been several empires, of which he says they were all called the Russian Empire, Ottoman Empire, and Persian Empire, referring to Russia, Turkey, and Iran. And he says, now, given the situation, what is the U.S. to do? It has three choices. The first is to start a major war, thus committing national suicide while taking other countries with it. It lacks the political will to make the decision, although it could blunder into a major war by accident. The second choice is to basically just fold, give up trying to project power around the world, retreat to its own borders, and lick its wounds. And then it says, but how is it possible to pretend that everything is still fine, even as everything is falling apart? It says the answer is to start faking it. It says if the U.S. manages to convince enough people at home and around that it's still dangerous, then it will be able to hide its increasing enfeeblement for a while longer. It may no longer be capable of achieving any of its aims, but it's still very much capable of mass murder, as was recently demonstrated by the U.S. coalition bombing Mosul and Raqqa, which now lay in ruins. It says, but even the opportunities to commit mindless mass murder with impunity are now becoming fewer and farther between, forcing the U.S. to resort to more boutique acts of violence. To justify these acts, the U.S. and much of Europe contains itself off from the rest of the world using an laboratory constructed wall of complete nonsense. Then he goes on to talk about how this whole Syrian bombing situation is so suspect. So if you read through this, it says that there's some people called the White Helmets, which is a anti-Assad U.S.-backed force there, and how they themselves are involved in this whole chemical weapons act. And then more importantly, how missiles originated in Israel is the reason why the United States wasn't involved directly with this whole chemical gas attack. But if Israel is involved, it's good to say that the U.S. is an ally of Israel, then they'll have more of an incentive to come that way. And then he goes on to talk about how the Navy ships and whatnot are coming in that direction and so forth. So it's very interesting. But yet, it says, this then is a strange period of history we are going through. The U.S. is lying nonstop while pretending to still be dangerous by committing wanton acts of mass murder. It says small-scale wanton acts of mass murder. It says, meanwhile, both national suicide via large-scale war and the decision to shut down the whole imperial project both remain politically impossible. So here we have the idea that the U.S. is faking it. I think he kind of portrayed exactly where our military capabilities actually stand. And so I've actually watched over the last several years how there's been several reports of Russia coming out with more and more technology that far exceeds what we have. So even if the United States of America is actually trying to go over there and bomb Syria, it's good to say what Russia is probably sitting on right now is very dangerous and capable of doing a lot more damage than we're probably giving them credit for. So that's why I think it's very dangerous for the United States of America to be even involved in this type of situation here, because not only is it a war that we probably cannot win based upon the fact that our technology is not all that, and then you have the idea of this today, Trump coming out with a tweet saying that Russia prepare for defending Syria because we have newer, smarter missiles. Like, who tweets stuff about having smart missiles when we know that Russia's sitting on something that we're not even capable of even seeing coming? And so that's just foolishness that this current administration is under now. So this leads me to my last question. I'm curious to find out what your thoughts might be. Why is it now all of a sudden so important for the United States of America or Donald Trump to go back on his word, or which he mentioned about possibly pulling troops out of Syria, and now all of a sudden, less than a week later, there's some type of chemical attack, and now he's going to war? So do you think it has something to do with lawyer's office being raided and possibly what could have been found, and how the deep state / the swamp has cornered him to the point where it's either you do what we say, we come out with this information, or Trump sticks to his guns and decides not to get involved in this war, even though nothing has been sent officially, even though there's ships or whatnot headed that way? So I would love to hear your thoughts. Leave me a message down below. And more importantly, if you find this informative, please share this with your family and friends so they can become more aware of what's happening around them. Other than that, look forward to bringing you more news.